Falaka, beating the soles of the feet until men screamed for mercy, was considered one of history's cruelest punishments, but it wasn't even close to the worst. Today I'm going to show you 5 punishments so brutal, so calculated, that Falaka would have felt like a warning. Number 3 was banned by an entire empire because even they thought it went too far. Let's begin. Used during the Spanish Inquisition, this device was a pyramid-shaped seat. The prisoner was lowered onto the point, suspended by ropes under the arms, forced to balance their entire body weight on it for hours, sometimes days. Inquisitors didn't even need to ask questions right away. They would simply leave the prisoner there and let time do the work. Confessions came not from pain alone, but from the psychological horror of knowing there was no end in sight. Common in European and colonial military discipline, the wooden horse was a narrow, sharp-edged beam. Soldiers were forced to sit astride it for hours, sometimes with weights tied to their ankles to increase pressure. It left no permanent injury, which is exactly why commanders loved it. A soldier could be punished today and back on duty tomorrow. But those who endured it described the pain as unbearable within minutes, let alone hours. Interestingly, even the Ottoman Empire, the same empire that used falaka on the feet, eventually restricted a harsher variant that targeted the palms and inner arms for prolonged sessions, after physicians reported permanent nerve damage in prisoners who couldn't work or hold a weapon afterward. When a punishment threatens a soldier's usefulness to the empire itself, that's when even brutal rulers started asking, have we gone too far? Used across multiple historical periods, from the Inquisition to more recent conflicts, this method involved restraining a person and forcing water into their mouth and throat continuously, simulating drowning without actually submerging them. Unlike other methods, this wasn't about physical damage. It was about triggering the body's most primal survival instinct, the fear of death by drowning, over and over, until the mind broke before the body did. Prisoners in several historical periods were placed in pits, partially covered with dirt, and left for hours, sometimes with threats that they'd be fully buried if they refused to talk. Survivors from documented accounts describe it as worse than any physical beating, the mind convincing itself, again and again, that death was seconds away. This is the punishment that made entire villages comply without a single blow being struck, because fear, once planted, spreads faster than pain ever could. So why does history matter here? Every single punishment on this list has one thing in common. They were designed by people who understood psychology just as much as pain. Prolonged fear, uncertainty, and public humiliation were often more effective control tools than physical injury alone. This is actually why modern psychology today studies historical punishment systems to understand coercion, trauma, and how the human mind responds to prolonged stress and fear. It's also why, after events like World War II, the international community came together to build legal frameworks like the UN Convention Against Torture, a set of laws now signed by most countries in the world, banning these exact tactics no matter who is using them or for what reason. Understanding this dark history isn't about shock value. It's about recognizing how far human rights protections have come and why they still need defending today. Which one of these 5 shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you learned something today, hit subscribe, because next time we're uncovering the executioner history tried to erase.